Super Retro Force.
Why do you collect retro games, or maybe just collecting in general? What drives you to collect? That is exactly what I'm going to be talking about with you guys today. Not only why do others collect, but also why I collect myself in regards to retro gaming or just collecting in general. So my fellow teammate over at Super Retro Force, Iowa Retro Gamer Dad, kind of expedited the process of me doing this video because I was actually going to do something similar to a video that he did, kind of going over the ideas of different aspects of how people collect and certain things to kind of, I guess you could say, kind of look at and check yourself and go, you know, maybe I fall into that category, or maybe I have fallen victim into certain bad habits and probably collected for the sake of doing it instead of doing it for some sort of sense of purpose, or maybe the items had an attachment to you, rather it was in your childhood or something along the lines of just life in general. And what I was planning on doing was talking to you guys about why I personally collected, and then also kind of just talking about how maybe I fell into some of these traps per se that happened by just, you know, subconscious and not really thinking about it, and then stuff just kind of spiraling, not necessarily out of control, but just kind of spiraling in a negative fashion per se. So one of the things that was brought up in his video was the idea of like this summit theory, like trying to get to the peak of something as quickly as possible for the sake of doing it, such as completing a console collection, like getting all the NES games or Genesis games, etc., right? So I don't fall into that category because I'm not per se a completionist by any stretch of the imagination. However, there is something that is supposed to correlate with the summit theory, which is, you know, once you get said thing or collection, whatever, you get this huge dopamine high, right? But then shortly, within like a week or two, you kind of come down from it, and then what you have, it just kind of falls into the background, and it's just kind of like, you know, no big deal, and it's just kind of background noise per se. Now that is something that I can totally get behind because I fall guilty of that as well. And everything that you guys see behind me, I'll just say, obviously I've accumulated it over an extended period of time because I actually didn't start collecting more heavily until probably about 8 years ago. If you're looking at what I have over there on my DVD rack, I basically had the equivalent of 4 of those shelves with video games on it, and that was it. But then once I started getting a little more expendable income, that little switch went off, and I thought, you know, maybe I should try to acquire some of these things that either I had as a child or things that I wanted but was never able to acquire. Which goes into our next thing of either involuntarily or voluntarily trying to keep up with content creators. So as we know, including myself, you guys will see like me picking up stuff, or you'll be watching other creators picking up stuff, whether it's on YouTube or say Instagram or any groups you're in, and you're seeing people post pictures of all these games and figures and all these cool things that you're like, man, I want to have some of this stuff and I want to be a part of the action as well. At least I can speak for myself that that's how it used to be for me a few years ago. I always kind of felt like as a creator, it was almost like a subliminal thing that you had to some degree, post pickup videos and stuff like that. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying I felt almost like I was obligated to. Nobody ever told me this, but again, when you're a creator and you're seeing what other people are doing, you're like, oh, maybe I guess that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So that being said, I would be going through the list of things that I personally would want to get and then acquire X amount at a certain period of time, and then, you know, making videos about it and sharing it with you guys. Not saying there's anything wrong with creating pickup videos, as I still do it as well. However, I can speak for myself again that it would create that sense of FOMO at times, or it would just be that, man, that looks really cool, and man, I wish I had something like that, and it would kind of draw me in to try to figure out something else that I needed to get. So kind of piggybacking from what we were kind of briefly talking about earlier is the aspect of collecting for trying to either get a set of something or the full collection of, rather it's video games or action figures. just something where you're trying to get a full completion of something. Now, I do not fall in that category. I'm not trying to acquire a full set of any console or games or anything like that. However, I am trying to, in my mind, I guess you could say, complete the things that are on my personal list. But at the end of the day, if I don't, it's not gonna be any skin off my back, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Now, I personally don't get any sort of satisfaction from just buying a bunch of random games that I know personally I either don't like or I'm never going to play at any point in my life, just that way I can say I have a completed collection. Thankfully for me, that is just not in my DNA. But again, I'm not going to try knocking on anybody who wants to get that fulfillment of saying, hey, I got the full collection. So what's my driving force as to why I collect? So the biggest thing for me at this point, I kind of realized it a couple years ago, as to what kind of keeps me going is more so that everything that surrounds me, it's almost like a museum of my life. I know that comes off like a bit philosophical and stuff like that, but in all seriousness, it is. It's everything that I enjoy, whether it was in my childhood or even going into my young adulthood or present day. And I could go up to just about any item that's down here and have some sort of a story that goes along with it as to why I acquired it, or just, I can remember if it's a video game, the first time I played it, blah, blah, blah. It'll take me back to wherever it was, and I can have a story to talk about whatever it is. And same thing with the movies I have, the TV shows, everything has a story. Now, obviously, once I kick the bucket, those stories are dead with me. But while I'm here, if somebody were to pick something up and go, hey, why'd you get this? I have something I can tell them about my life as to why I have that and what was going on at that particular point in time. Now, there is just one more reason as to why I do collect certain things. And the biggest thing is I want physical media. Because why? Call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't know. I just don't like this idea of everything going digital and then somebody else potentially telling me I can or cannot have access to whatever it is that I'm paying money for. I would personally rather have my shelf of stuff and, maybe I don't touch it for a while or whatever, but at the same time, at any given point in time, I can play it whenever I want or watch it whenever I want, and nobody can tell me otherwise. And what I will end with is similar to what Iowa was saying. The journey, it needs to be fun, right? But also, to me, the finish should be just as fun. Meaning, just because it's done doesn't mean you should be looking at it like, I'm done. I would like you, just like myself, to be able to look at what you have, appreciate it, and then also knowing that you have something that is tangible with it, such as a story or something along those lines that are tied to the items that you get. So that way, it just doesn't turn into just background stuff like what I got here and just like, yeah, it's cool stuff to look at. And that's it. I want it to be where I can look at it like where I'm at. When I'm down here making videos, it's like the vibes. I'm surrounded by everything that I absolutely love in this life. Rather, it's the games, the movies, the football stuff, because I'm a Browns fan. I know it's like I like abuse apparently because my team sucks, but I still love them anyways. And so I got all these things that influenced me, rather it was in my present time life right now or in my past life. I would like for some of you guys out there, if you have not kind of reflected as to why you're collecting, kind of mentally check yourself a bit and go, why am I really collecting? Am I just burning a hole in my pocket for the sake of doing it? Or am I actually doing it for some sort of fulfillment on my own end? But with that, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and then I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.